familiar with me, then you know that my instruction style is all about keeping everything simple. I don't like to be really verbose. I don't like all these extra steps and just a whole bunch of stuff you just don't need. Even though I focus on foundational learning, I'm very, very, very serious about having a foundation. I always try to teach it in the most simple manner for you guys. Always, 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 because the simpler it is for you to execute, the easier it is for you to do what? Remember, so you can retain it and you can apply it. So if you have the workbook, of course, everybody knows that this acronym is for what? Keeping it super simple. Everything we approach, any topic I approach, I'm always keeping it super simple. All right, so we can do convergence in 2 simple steps. All right, so some small things you guys have to know in reference to convergence in order for this to work. So make sure you have these particular skills in line. So first things first, I like to do convergence within a system because you guys have to know 2 different types of convergence. You have to know convergence within a system, and you have to know convergence between systems. So when we say convergence within a system, you see how this particular example says hectograms to decigrams. You see how they have that grams in common? That lets me know that's within the same system. It's just different pieces or different sizes of that same unit. So within a system, we're going to focus on the decimal movement. And then I'll show you guys another example if we have time for convergence between systems. All right, so these are all of the prefixes that you guys have to know for the exam. You have to know kilo, you have to know hecto, you have to know deca, you have to know deci, you have to know centi, and you have to know milli. So in the center, as you guys see where my base units are, for this exam, there are only 3 basic base units you guys have to know, and it's gonna be, here goes my stylus acting crazy. All right, it's gonna be grams. I don't know why excuse my handwriting, it's my stylus acting crazy. All right, it's gonna be grams, meters, and liters. All right, so those are the base units that all of these prefixes are going to be based on for this particular exam. All right, so that's going to be the center. Okay, so you guys got to make sure you know all of your prefixes and in order to use the method of decimal movement, it has to be in this order. So an easy way to be able to remember that is through this acronym up top. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. So what I have noticed is that most people, when they first begin their exam, they'll give you guys scratch paper. They'll write this on the paper so they're not trying to memorize it, you know, through the reading part, because that's what you guys have to do first. So I have found that this is really the easiest way to be able to learn how to do convergence. I know some people memorize the values like, oh, there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram and all that stuff, but you have to make sure you remember that across every single prefix. So that's why if you do decimal conversion, it's going to work no matter what they give you. All right. So first things first, we always have to mark our starting point and our ending point. So if we look at this example, it says 2.48 hectograms is equal to how many decigrams? So we're going to use this as a guide to let me know where I need to go. All right, so let's mark our starting point. So we're starting at hecto, so I'm going to put an X here, right? All right, and then we're ending at deci. All right, so first thing you always want to mark is movement. You always want to know if you're moving to the left or to the right, because that's going to dictate where my decimal is going. So if I started at hecto and I moved to deci, which way did I go? I went to the right. All right, so that's first things first. I know I'm moving to the right. All right, now we need to count the number of spaces that we move. So a good thing you have to remember is you don't count where you start, but you count where you end. So if we just look at the boxes, if we go from hecto to deci, that's 1, 2, 3 spaces, and then which way did we go? To the right. All right, so now that we've identified the movement, this needs to be duplicated via our what? Via the decimal, all right? And that's pretty much it. So we have 2.48. And we've decided that this decimal needs to move 3 spaces to the right. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna create what are called ice cream scoops. So we're gonna say 1, and for every scoop you have, only 1 number can fit in that scoop. So we're gonna go twice, and we're gonna go 3 times to the right, and that's where our decimal is gonna be. Now, anytime you guys have what's called like an empty scoop, you have to add a what there? You have to add a 0 as a placeholder. All right, always, always, always when you have an empty scoop. So if we rewrite our new value, we have 2480. Now you can put the decimal at the end if you want to, but you don't have to because we're dealing with the whole number. The only time a decimal has to be visible is if it's in between values. But if it's at the end of a value, it doesn't necessarily have to be there. All right, so we go back and we answer it. 2.48 hectograms is equivalent to 2,480 decigrams. And that's it. So the only thing we did, if we look at it again from the top, you always mark where you start and where you end because we're looking for direction and we're counting the number of spaces. So the question says 2.48 hectograms is equal to how many decigrams? So I know I'm starting here at hecto and I'm ending at deci. The first thing I need to know is, am I going to the left or to the right? Well, we know if we started at hecto, because it's so important that people understand where am I starting. If anything, I probably should have put an S right there. So we know this is where we started and this is where we ended. So we know direction. So I know I'm going from here to here, I'm moving to the right. All right, now we need to count how many spaces we move to the right. Don't count where you start, never, ever, ever, but include where you end. So we went 1, 2, 3 spaces, and which way did we go? To the right. This lets me know, and even if you have to write it out, I tell people, do it to what works for you. Everybody's trying to do everything in their head. Everybody's trying to skip the work, but you do realize the more you write something down, the easier it is for you to retain it. So write the steps down, because if you make a mistake, guess what you can say? Let me go back and see how many spaces I moved. Let me go back and see which direction I went to make sure I did it correctly. You always want to do your work so you're able to come back and check it. All right, so we decided we moved 3 spaces to the right. That movement is always dictated by the decimal. That's the whole gist of this particular strategy. It's always about decimal movement. So we went once and we create an ice cream scoop for every time we move, and only one value can fit per scoop. So we went once, twice, 3 times to the right. Now remember, at the end, we had an empty scoop. So what did that mean for us? That meant that we had to add a 0 as a placeholder, and you will always do that when you have an empty scoop. All right, and that placed our decimal at the end of our value. Anytime your decimal is at the end, you don't have to leave it there because it's just a whole number. All right, so we know that 2.48 hectograms is equivalent to 2,480 decigrams. All right, it just sounds like a lot because I'm giving you guys the details, but once we kind of get in the groove and start doing it, you'll see how easy it is, and it's really like not even like that. All right, so let's look at a second example before I let you guys do one by yourself. All right, we're gonna go through this again. All right, so if we look at our second example, now this time I gave you guys abbreviations, and the reason why I did that is because that's another thing you guys have to know. You have to know your abbreviations because for your exam, they could give you the word straight out. Like for the first example, I gave you hectograms and decigrams. In the second example, I didn't give you that. I gave you the prefixes. So what does that let you know? That's something that you need to memorize. That's one more thing. Now, the good thing is you only need to memorize the prefixes based on grams, meters, and liters, right? You're not really going to see anything outside of that. And if you have the workbook, I gave you guys a chart with all of the prefixes you have to know. So just make sure you're familiar with those. All right, so we have 125 ml is equal to L. All right. So I know that ml is what? That is milliliters. And I can, let me go in and write the letters for you guys so you'll know. All right, so anytime kilo is there, it's always gonna be a K. Hecto is gonna be an H. Deca is gonna be DK. All right, so anytime you see DK before something, that's deca. All right, deci is just gonna be D, centi is gonna be C, and then M, milli is gonna be M. All right, and then these are always the letters that will come before your actual base units. All right. All right, so in this case, if I have ml, that means that's what? Milliliter. So I know I'm going to be starting here. So let's go ahead and mark our starting point. I'm starting at milliliters. All right, and then I'm ending at L. So this is a trick that you guys should know. Anytime you see a letter by itself in terms of abbreviations, that's always a base unit. because all of these are prefixes. They're attached to a base. So if I see L by itself, that's liter. If I see M by itself, that's meters. If I see G by itself, that's grams. These are things that you guys have to know because they're not going to tell you if it's an abbreviation. They're not even going to give you any type of conversion factor. They're going to expect for you to know how to do this. All right, so if I know my starting point is at milli and my ending point is at my base, I'm going to mark that as E. Right? All right, so let's do the same thing that we did. First of all, we need to indicate direction. If I go from my starting point to my ending point, which way am I moving? I'm going to the what? To the left. All right, so that already lets me know I'm moving to the left. Now we need to figure out how many spaces are we going. So what's the rule? You don't count where you start, but you count where you end. So we went 1, 2, I probably should mark it. 1, 2, 3 spaces to the left. All right, and then what does this tell me? This just lets me know where my decimal is going. That's the only thing it's telling me. So if we look at our value, we have 125. The reason why I chose this is because this is a whole number that doesn't display a what? A decimal. If you're in a situation and you don't see the decimal, what do? Well, you guys should know that anytime I have a whole number and the decimal is not visible, decimal is going to be at the end of the value. Always, always, always. It's just like with whole numbers, we don't have to put it there, but remember how I told you guys in our first example, when we moved that decimal to the end of the 2,480, what did I say? It doesn't have to be visible in the answer because that just confirms that we're dealing with what? A whole number, right? So if you guys make note, if you get a conversion and you don't see your decimal, you automatically put it where? At the end of your value. All right, and then once we see our decimal, what do? We do exactly what we did, what we wrote in our notes. We said that we're moving 3 spaces to the left. All right, so we're gonna go once, twice, 3 times to the left. So now my decimal is at the front of my value, which leaves me with 0.125. Now, when a decimal is in front of values, you have to put it there because it signifies that that is a decimal. The only time you can forego not writing a decimal if it's at the end of a value, okay? So you see how that it went to the front, 0.125, it stays just like that. That's gonna be the answer, 0.125. All right, and then sometimes what you will see is like they'll add a 0 as a placeholder in the front of it. So, because normally you don't just see decimals that's like point, whatever, they'll just add a 0 in the front. So 0.125 and 0.125 are the same thing. All right, I want to make sure that you guys know that when you see it, because sometimes people are so specific with math, if they don't see it exactly how they learn it, they can't connect it. So I need you to know that this and this are the same. Okay, so just in case you guys are given multiple choice, then you'll know exactly what to do. All right, so if we look at it again from the top, always think of conversions in simple terms. If we're doing a conversion within a system, which means they have some type of base in common. For our first example, they had grams in common. Our second conversion, they had liters in common. That's a trigger, and you have to create these things in your mind. Triggers let you know when I see a certain type of question or a certain type of setup, this is what I need to do. You have to train your mind to think like that. So when you see this set up like this, and you know grams and grams, liters and liters, this is within a system. I need to do my decimal movement. That's it. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. All right, so you always mark where you start, mark where you end, indicate direction. You're either going to the left or to the right. So of course, if S is for start and E is for end, we know that we went to the left. All right, and then we counted the number of spaces, never count where you start. So we went 1, 2, 3 spaces to the left. That dictates where my decimal is going. If you guys are given a whole number, if you don't see your decimal, you always place it where? At the end. All right, so go ahead and complete number 1 for me. And then once you get your answer, place it in the chat, and then I'll go over it so we can see it. All right, so if we take a look at number one, it says 0.638 kg is equal to how many grams? All right, so of course, I gave you guys the prefixes. So you got to make sure where the conversion is going. All right, so we know that kg is for what? Kilograms. And because we just see a letter by itself, that lets me know it's a base unit, so that's grams. So if we go back to our chart, all right, we are starting at kilograms. So this is my starting point. Change the color. All right, this is my starting point, and then I'm ending here at my base, right? All right, so first thing we need to indicate is what direction. That means we're going to which way? We're going to the right. All right, and then how many spaces? We're going once, twice, 3 times to the right. That's it. I don't know if this is allowing like people to write on the screen. All right, so we're going 3 spaces to the right, and that's always indicative of what? The decimal movement. So if my decimal is here, I'm gonna go once, and remember, every time I move, it has to include one value. Twice, 3 times to the right. So if the decimal is at the end, that's gonna be 638. Why? Because if a decimal is at the end of a value, that indicates that it's a whole number, so it doesn't have to be there. Okay, I think that's one thing that kind of confuses people a lot. They're like, well, what happened to the decimal? Where is it? If it's at the end of a value, you don't have to include it. All right, go ahead and try number 2 for me. All right, looks like everybody's doing a great job. All right, I do see a few discrepancies, so let's go ahead and see what we have going on. All right, so number 2 says 89.65 G is equal to how many CG? So we know G, if we have something by itself, that's a base unit, so that's our grams. And then CG, C is for centi, so we're going from grams to centigrams. All right, so let's see. 0.65. How many centigrams? All right, so let's go ahead and let's mark our starting and our ending points. All right, so we started at our base, which is grams. So we started here, and then we ended at centigrams. All right, so if we look at direction, we're going which way? To the right. And if we count our spaces, we went 1, 2 spaces to the right. All right, so now we just have to duplicate that with our decimal. So if we start at our decimal, we're gonna go once, twice to the right. So because it's at the end, that makes it a what? A whole number. So 8,965 centigrams. So I did see a few mistakes. I saw some people going in the wrong direction and then not moving enough. So you want to make sure before you get too comfortable, because that's what happens with topics like this that are real easy. People get too comfortable. Do the strategy. Mark your start and mark your ending. Write the direction. Write the number of spaces like we did in our examples. Because if you do that, that helps you to avoid making a mistake don't go into it trying to do it in your head because it's real easy. I know how that can be, but the easier it is to learn, the easier it is for you to forget. So you just got to make sure you build that foundation. All right. All right, so you guys can go ahead and do numbers 3 through 10 for me, and you can just drop your answers in the chat. Yeah, drop your answers in the chat, and then I will write the correct answers in these spaces, and if anybody has a question, I'll actually go over it. All right, so I added all the answers in. So how did you guys do? All right, for number 3, we have 35. For number 4, 620. Number 5, 3,280. Number 6, 0.625. Number 7, 3.25. Number 8, 0.032. Number 9, 0.08965. And number 10, 0.000652. So do we have any questions about any of those? You guys, is there anyone that you would like for me to go over specifically that maybe you might have got wrong or?
Yes, can you go over number 4?
So for number 4, we have 0.62 liters. Can you guys make sure you mute your mics for me, please? All right, number 4, we have 0.62 liters is equal to how many milliliters? All right, let's see. Let's see. All right, so remember, liters is a base unit. Oh Lord, I should have did it the other way. All right, never mind. Okay, let me write it out. All right, so we know we started at liters. Liters is our base unit, so it's here. Well, no, I can do it. All right, and then we end it at milliliters. So if we look at direction, we're going to the what, right? All right, and then how many spaces are we going to the right? 1, 2, 3 spaces to the right. So that dictates what? Decimal movement. So if this is our decimal here at 0.62, we're gonna go once, twice, 3 times to the right. All right, and then remember, because we have that empty scoop there, anytime we have an empty scoop, we have to add a 0 as a placeholder. So that's how we got 620. Do we have any other questions?
I have one. Oh, you can hear me? Oh, okay. So for number 2 and number 5, the ones that goes with a decimal at the end, do we put a comma in to make it like 8,965, or we don't have to put a comma in?
You don't have to. I mean, as long as you know it's thousands. I mean, that's the technical thing for math. Like, you know, if we have like something with 1,000, we would put the comma there, but it still means the same thing. The commas don't really matter, but decimals matter. Commas don't mean anything.
Okay, thank you.
Can you go over number 5, please?
So we look at number 5. Number 5 says 3.28 decagrams is how many centigrams? All right. So let's see. Number 5. All right, so we're saying 3.28 decagrams. How many centigrams? All right. So remember, deca is this first D from the left. All right. I think a lot of people kind of get the 2 D's confused, but the first one is deca. All right. So that is our starting point, and then our ending point is centi. All right. So if we indicate direction, we move to the right. So we know that. And then how many spaces we went? 1, 2, 3 spaces to the right. All right, so remember that always dictates what? Our decimal movement. So we start at our decimal. We're gonna go once, twice, 3 times to the right. Remember, anytime we have an empty scoop, you have to add a 0 as a placeholder. We got 3,280.
Thank you.
Welcome. I don't know why I wrote that like that, because now I can't move the thing. That's annoying. Oh, you know what? I do have any other questions?
Can you go over number 10, please? Number 10.
Okay. All right, so if we look at number 10, we have 0.00652 grams is equal to how many deciliters? All right. So when you guys get the questions like this, don't let all the numbers or all the zeros like after the decimal scare you, because one thing you'll learn about math, you always want to focus on process. I'm a process-oriented instructor, meaning that I focus on the fact that no matter how the numbers change, the process isn't going to change. If you notice, we do the same, we're doing these questions exactly the same way every time. The only thing that's changing is the values that we're dealing with, but the way that we're solving it is not changing. So once you guys kind of understand that part, it makes it so much easier to retain, because then you'll know when I see this, I do this. That's it. Don't try to pick like a whole bunch of different ways to try to do something. I always tell people when you're prepping, pick one method and stick with it. That's why I always teach methods that always work. Like I don't really like to do shortcuts and all that. Unless you're a person who really understands that concept, don't try to learn the shortcut. Why? Because you're not going to understand why you're doing it. You're not going to understand when to use it and when not to use it. All right, so we got grams to decagrams. All right, so go back to our prefixes. We are starting at our base because that's a gram. And then where are we going? To deca, that's it. Oh. All right, so we just went one space to the left. So we're gonna do the same thing with our decimal. We're gonna go once to the left. So that's how we got 0.00652. So anytime you see like a 0 in front of the decimal, that's just there as a placeholder. Sometimes it does, sometimes it's not. Most of the time they put it there, but it doesn't hold any values. All right. I just want you guys to know that 0.00652 is the same thing as 0.00652. The 0 in front of the decimal is just a placeholder.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so do we have any other questions?
I just have a question for number 4.
Mm-hmm.
How did it go from 0.621 while seeing how you got to 620? I'm sorry.
That's liters. That's not a 1.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, now I see it. Okay.
Do we have any other questions? No? All right, so that was a look at convergence within a system. So I just want to give you guys some perspective on things. I hate that I wrote that like that, because then you can't see the answer. It's annoying. All right, I'll just have to rewrite it in there because that is driving me crazy. I don't know why I did that. I wrote them using 2 different tools, and one of them is moving, and the other one's not moving, which is what I would have wanted. I'll go back and rewrite it. So if you guys know, today we took a look at convergence within a system. So remember, when you are learning or reviewing concepts, right? The most important thing you can do for yourself initially is create a trigger. So when we say create triggers, that means that when you see a question, you instantly know what to do, right? And then you have to create those yourself. Sometimes people think like, oh, if I keep practicing, then I'll get it. But if you don't have a certain way to do it, it's just like GPS. Like if I go from here to Walmart, it's more than one route I can take, right? But normally I take the route that I'm more comfortable with, whether it's was faster or if it's less traffic. Everybody has their way of doing things. So look at math the same way. When you learn how to do a concept, whatever route you like taking to get there, stick with it, because we want to lock in what? That process. Because if you lock in a process and you're used to doing the same thing over and over and over again, no matter the numbers, no matter the words, then that's how you tend to grow your skill set. That's how I'm good at math, because I just relate everything. Like, I don't try to make it so much more than what it is. I just know one thing about math is not going to change. They taught us a certain way to do it. That's just what it is. So when you guys see these types of questions and we have units that are similar, base units like 2.48 hectograms to decigrams, these grams let me know I'm doing a conversion within a system. So this particular strategy works for conversions within a system. If I go from kilograms to decagrams or hectoliters to milliliters, you see how they have that word in common? That's a conversion within a system, and that's what this strategy is working for. All right, so remember, in order to use this strategy, you have to put your prefixes in the correct order. From left to right is kilo, hecto, deca. It's your base, deci, centi, and milli, right? An easy way to remember it is via this acronym: King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. All right, so a strategy that most people use is they write this down on their scratch paper at the beginning of the test so that they can use it for reference. All right, so if we keep it super simple, once you have your lineup and you know what you're converting, you mark your starting point, you mark your ending point. You indicate whether you're going to the left or to the right, how many spaces, and that determines your decimal movement. That's it. That's all you're doing. So just make sure you guys keep practicing. You guys did a really good job today. Again, this concept is fairly simple if you lock in the process. Don't underestimate it, because it's real easy to make a mistake, because everything is dependent on how many times you move your decimal, you know? So you guys just gotta make sure you're focused. All right, so before we get out of here, I am also gonna show you guys how to navigate the Facebook group. That's one thing that I learned. A lot of people don't really know how to really utilize it, like how they're supposed to. So I'm gonna show you guys exactly how to do it. So can you guys see my screen of the Facebook group? Before I go to
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so if you see the group, right? All right, so one important thing you guys always want to check out is the files tab. So if you look at the top, you see how it has discussion, mentorship, all these things right here. So if you're on the desktop, if you click more, you can go to files. And I think it's the same thing on the phone. Can't remember. I think on the phone, you just slide them to the left. Let me check and see. But you definitely want to check out the files, because it's a whole bunch of free stuff that I uploaded there a long time ago. Okay, yeah, so if you go on your phone and you see all of those options, you just swipe to the left and then files will be at the end. All right, but see, all of these worksheets are things that I uploaded and you can open them. So let's just look at this proportion word problems PDF. So if I click on that and I click on that file, it'll open the proportions. Yeah. It'll open it. So this is just something that I like. It was good extra practice for you guys. And then it gives you guys the breakdowns and the answers. And these are all things that you can download. Y'all can save them. Y'all can print them. Y'all can use them as much as you like. All right. And then I have a couple of different ones on there. Most of them primarily are math, but I have some for the other subjects as well. So we have reading, notes for reading. We have different worksheets for English. These notes for English, Elizabeth Tran, make sure y'all download those. Those are really good. I really like how she pointed out all of the major things you guys have to know for English, and then gave you guys examples and good notes. So I love those. Those are my favorite English notes. The T Science by Kelly, even though it's from the T6, it's still good to know. I know the biggest difference between science and T6 and T7 was that T6 was more A&P, and in T7 they brought in biology and chemistry. But still good to know. All of these files are really good though. I always tell people, if you can download and print all of them, why not? Because it's free and it's extra practice. It just helps to give you a variety of things to actually be able to work on. All right, another thing that you can utilize in the group that a lot of people I think they don't know how to use is this search bar right here. So if you go to like the top of the group, you see this search bar, you can literally search any topic in the group. You gotta, well, I was gonna say you gotta remember, but most of y'all probably wouldn't know. This group is 3 years old. So I always tell people there's 3 years worth of content here in this group specifically. So if you type in any particular topic, like just say we type in Jeopardy, and it'll show all of our Jeopardy reviews that we've done. All right, and Jeopardy reviews are really great. If you guys go back, like when I do Jeopardy reviews, they're live, they're interactive. And what we do is like a Jeopardy style review where people can win things, but for every question, I literally break down all of the answers, like every single time. So let's just say we take a look at this particular one right here. And we were talking about estimating around in fractions, decimals, and percents, comparing order and numbers, but you see how we go through, literally do every question, break it down. So much stuff in here that you guys need. So see how we just did convergence today? Go check out this review because it includes convergence within the system and convergence between systems. And I show you how to break it down. Same thing, we have that topic, or we have ratios, proportions, and percentages, tax, tip, and discount, percent, proportions. Like, it's so much stuff that you guys can go back and look at, because anytime I go live, like actually in the group, I always leave everything up for you guys to be able to review. So any topic that you guys want to see, you just type it into the search bar and it'll come up. So say if we type in fractions, right? Say if you're a person that's struggling with fractions. Anytime a post has been made about fractions, anytime I post a video including something with fractions, you're gonna see it. So you get things from me, things that I do, you get things that people from the group, maybe you and somebody else from the group have the same question. A lot of the times y'all all have the same questions. Sometimes people are just scared to ask. So if you go in and you look, there's a post from me, there's another short video from me, there's another video from me, there's another. I mean, I have so many videos and so much content available to you guys, but you have to actually look for it, right? And it's literally right there in the group. Literally right there in the group. Another video from me, another video from me. Oh God, I posted so many videos. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, another video from me, another video from me. A whole live review, an hour and 1 hour and 25 minutes of review questions. So you guys see practice questions, just all types of stuff that's available for you guys. Just gotta make sure you utilize it. And you'll be good to go. Also, make sure y'all check out my YouTube channel. I have a whole playlist on there for you guys. Let's see. I have a whole playlist that you guys can check out. Let's see. So if you go on YouTube, these two playlists are really good. The T6 math review are like full length tutorials from like 2019. Even though they're for the T6, the topics are the same for T7. So if you check out this, it has all of the topics in order, especially if you have the book, but the new book has 250 tutorials built into that. So you really won't need it, but just in case you want extra practice. And then this is also a really good playlist as well. This one goes over the diagnostic test from the exam. All right, so all of the questions. So even if you don't have the book, you can still go through a whole diagnostic test and look at practice questions and get an idea of everything you're gonna see. Y'all just have to take the time to utilize, what's available to you. And you will be good to go. So before we get out of here, does anyone have any questions for me? Anything in reference specifically to the TEAS exam or study strategies or anything like that you guys would like to know?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell me where to get the the book again? I'm sorry.
You said something about, I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Can you tell me one more time where to get the book from?
Okay, so I will drop the link in here for you guys for the book. Now, right now, the physical version of the book is sold out. It probably won't be back for another 2 weeks. Just waiting on it to get here. But I do have the digital version available. The good thing about the digital version is you can download it, you can print it, and it's on sale. I think today, it's either today or tonight or tomorrow is the last day for like $30. Because it's normally $40. All right, so that's the link for the book. Do I have any other questions in reference to preparation? I feel a lot of you guys are testing real soon. Are you guys nervous?
Yeah, I test Tuesday.
You ready?
I think I am. I'm trying to refresh because I've taken the HESI test, the PERT test, and the TOEIC test all last year, October. So I'm switching schools, and they are requiring the TEAS test. So this is why I'm TEAS.
I will say TEAS is totally different from the HESI. The HESI is way easier than the TEAS test.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think in reference to TABE. I haven't seen TABE in a long time.
Yeah.
I would say overall though, the TEAS is not as bad as everybody thinks. Like as long as you know like what topics you're gonna see and you just practice, like like make sure you work on whatever your weaknesses are. I would say because you're 2 days out from your exam, your best bet right now is to take some type of practice test. Because you need to know exactly where you are, so if there are like small things, if there are small things that you need to work on, you can clean them up. I always tell people when you're really close to your exam, if it's something that you haven't mastered at this particular point though, don't stress about it. You don't want to spend time trying to learn 48 hours out. Only thing you should be doing is refreshing. That's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, it says, do your videos follow your study book that I purchased? Yes. So if you have the T6, which was the first book, then you follow the tutorials from YouTube. That playlist I showed you guys. If you have the new book, which is the T7, there are QR codes included in the book for every single cluster. So if you scan the QR code, it takes you directly to a page that houses all of the review videos. So I have a review video for every single example in the book. And then I specifically chose like frequently asked questions I always got that people had issues with, and then I chose bonus questions. So altogether, it's 251 video tutorials that come with the T7. Yeah, so if you have the ebook, the QR codes are in the book. It says, are we going to have another live session on different topics? So normally my schedule doesn't really allow for me to do live sessions just because I'm always either writing or recording videos. I'm always just doing something. I have all the stuff I do. So the reason why I did a review today is because today was supposed to be my off day. I wasn't supposed to be doing any work, but I wanted to make sure that I was able to talk to you guys because I'm not able to do it as much as I would like. So only thing I can say is, with reviews, I kind of just do them on a whim. I don't have like a schedule or like I said, I don't like to give you guys dates and then I can't make it or I'm too tired. Like I have to really be, honestly, I have to be in the mood to do it so that I can be clear and I can answer all the questions and like not rushing out or being aggravated or anything. So sure. Do I have any more questions before we get out of here? Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today on this good Sunday. I hope I was able to help make it a little bit better. Yes.
Do you do the grammar as well, or is there someone you can recommend?
No, I don't do grammar, but for English, what's the lady name? Is it Nurse Chong? Is that the lady on YouTube? Somebody help me out. It's like a list that they have. I have to find it. There's a list where like somebody made a list of like all the people who you look at for each subject area. And I think for English, it's the Nurse Chong lady. I think so. I'll find out and then I'll post it in the group and then you'll be able to see. I thought Carolyn McAllister was for reading. No? Oh, Maria. Okay, so Maria says she has a list. So Maria, can you post the list in the group or post the list in the chat so that everybody can have it and they can download it and they'll be able to reference it. All right, thank you so much. So Maria will either post it in the group or post it here, and then you guys will have the list of recommendations. They have YouTube recommendations of all the different people you should look for reading, for English, for science, and for math. All right, how long should I take to study before I schedule my test? How long should I take to go through your entire book? So the book comes with a study schedule. It comes with a 4-week, a 6-week, and an 8-week plan. My personal recommendation, if you have time, because I know the time constraint is different for everybody, but I always tell people you should be studying minimum 6 to 8 weeks, only because I'm considering all 4 subject areas. But I know, you know how it can be if you only have 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you kind of have to readjust. But the book, everybody kind of go through it at their own pace. I know people who finish the book in a week if that's the only thing that they're doing. It just depends on you. But if you have the 6 to 8 weeks, I would say take that. If not, you want to base your time around your weaknesses first. You always want to spend the most time prepping on whatever you're the weakest at, and you roll all of your other topics in. So one thing that I see a lot of people do that I don't like personally, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying I don't personally like when people say I'm going to spend 2 weeks doing reading, 2 weeks doing math, 2 weeks doing science, because what you're doing is you're isolating the topics instead of rolling the topics into each other. So when I say roll, let's say, for example, if I had 4 weeks to prep, right? If my weakest subject is math, week 1, I'm starting with math. Let's say my next weekest subject is science. Week 2, I'm doing math and science. Week 3, math, science, reading. Week 4, math, science, reading, and English. You have to roll them, because if you spend too much time away from a topic, what happens? You lose the information. So you always want to make sure that most of your time should always go towards your weaknesses. And how do you know what your weak spots are? You have to do some type of practice test, because a lot of you guys are gauging your content level on how you feel or what you're thinking. I think I'm bad at this. I think I don't know how to do this. I think I know how to do this. You don't have any evidence to back that up. Then you get to the test and say, oh my God, I thought I knew how to add fractions. Oh my God, I thought I knew how to find the main idea. Did you practice it? No, because you thought you knew how to do it. Oh, thank you so much. So Maria said she posted the picture to the group. So you guys will have the picture with the list of all the recommendations. All right, do we have any other questions before we get out of here? Yes, no, maybe. No? All right, well, thank y'all so much for participating today. I really enjoyed y'all. I really hope that I was able to help clarify conversions for you guys. Conversions are very simple. It's something you're guaranteed to see on your exam. So make sure if you have the book, you're utilizing all of the great tutorials. Even if you don't have the book, make sure you check out all of the resources in the group and the YouTube channel, because there's more than enough stuff to help you get prepared. But of course, the book is the solid thing that helps to build the foundation. It features over 1,700 practice questions, a diagnostic test, and 2 full-length practice tests. Can't beat that. That's a lot of practice. Plus the video tutorials. It's a lot of good stuff. All right, well, thank y'all so much. I enjoyed y'all. If I get some free time later, because I guess I'm about to cook and clean up for the rest of it, I'll add some more files on there for you guys to take a look at, and you'll be good to go. So thank y'all so much. Many blessings to all of you this week. Good luck to anybody who's testing, and I will see you guys next time.